वेलकम टू रोहिला स्टेनो क्लासेस। आपका डिक्टेशन शुरू होगा 3 सेकंड बाद। रेडी, स्टार्ट। I would like to take the House into the history of these provisions as they were discussed in the Constituent Assembly. Stop. Even at the time when the present Article 369 was being considered by the Constituent Assembly, there was a body of opinion which felt that limiting the parliamentary jurisdiction in respect of commodities like food, grains, and other agricultural products for a period of 5 years was taking a short view of the question. Stop. The basis of the decision of the drafting committee could be understood from para 14 of the letter written by the chairman of the drafting committee to the president of the Constituent Assembly. Stop. Para. I am making reference to this letter of the chairman in order to point out that the recommendation of the chairman of the drafting committee to the president of the Constituent Assembly was based on a previous enactment, namely, the provisions of the India within bracket Central Government and Legislature bracket close Act of 1946, which gave life in regard to the power exercised by the Central Legislature over those matters for a further period when the war legislation came to an end. Stop. Para. It is not often that one looks back to what happened during the time when the Constituent Assembly was discussing. Stop. But it did give me a certain pleasure, when I was looking into the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly to find that a friend of ours, who is a member of this house, had the farsightedness to feel at the time when Article 306 of the draft Constitution was being considered that the duration of the validity of the provisions of that article should be extended from 5 to 15 years. Stop. In fact, at that time the honorable member expressed the opinion that in matters like food stuffs, minerals, etc., the power of the government of India should be kept intact. Stop. Anyway, the Constituent Assembly did not accept the suggestion made by him. Stop. Para. Even prior to this particular article being taken up for consideration by the Constituent Assembly, in the several discussions that took place in regard to the distribution of powers between the center and the states, it was felt that parliamentary control should be provided over essential commodities other than those expressly covered by item 52, list 1, and item 33 of list 3rd attached to the Constitution of India. Stop. Para. I remember the discussion that took place between the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly and the chief ministers of the states and the ministers of the central government, and I would like to recall that our late lamented Dr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, who was then Minister of Industry and Supply, expressed himself in those discussions that control of Parliament should extend not merely to trade and commerce and the products of the industries which were within the legislative competence of Parliament, but should extend also to other commodities, the control of which was declared by Parliament by law to be expedient in the public interest. That is, he felt that Parliament should have the power to extend the range of control over commodities, other than those covered by item 52 of list 1, schedule 7. There was a considerable amount of discussion on this point at that particular meeting with the chief ministers of states, and it was then decided that an item similar to item 33 in list 3rd of schedule 7 should be provided and might prove adequate. The present chief minister of UP at that time very aptly indicated that though the centre might have legislative powers in regard to some of these commodities, these powers have been and are being exercised only for the purpose of preparing a skeleton legislative measure, and that the provinces are left to deal with the rest, as the provinces made rules and the rule making even in regard to matters about which the main legislative power was with the centre. No conclusions were reached in that meeting in regard to augmenting the powers of Parliament in respect of all products which Parliament might consider at some time or other to be of national importance. Para, the idea of extending the powers of the centre in respect of the development of agriculture, including animal husbandry, forestry and fisheries, and supply and distribution of food was again mooted in the Lok Sabha on the 31st August 2009. Para. The next stage in respect of the consideration of this matter was when the Ministry of Commerce and Industry appointed the Commodity Controls Committee. This committee in its report in paras 36 to 44, has discussed the entire question of the reserve powers of the central government to enable it to exercise control over any commodity at any given time. A reading of these paragraphs would, I humbly suggest, amply compensate the effort undertaken. This committee held that entry 33 of the concurrent list provides only a partial solution of the problem before us. अगर आपको डिक्टेशन पसंद आया हो तो लाइक करें, शेयर करें और चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें।